This video is brought to you by the Farmer Klein YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Farming Simulator 22 Map First Impressions video. Today we're going to take a look at Crocken Farm. But before that, this video is brought to you by Galcomp Gamer and Chris Miller. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Crocken Farm map can be found over at the farmingsimulator.com website or the in-game downloadable content menu, and as of the 1.0 release, this map is available for all platforms. Let me read you some of the description. Welcome to Crocken Farm, a fictional place somewhere in the UK. In new farm mode, you have inherited the farm. Use existing machinery as is a little worn out and damaged, but will allow you to start your farming business. Work the fields you own and acquire more to increase your profits. Buy some animals too, but most of all, have fun. This map includes 36 fields of many shapes and sizes. All areas of the map can be purchased. Custom animal husbandry has been built in. All farm buildings, including animal husbandry, can be sold. Many textures and plants that you can paint down. A free water source at a pond opposite field 30. 2 additional crops in Rye and Fieldbean. Use of larger machinery are possible. 20 collectibles can be found. The starting machinery and farm buildings are only available on new farmer mode. This map also includes 8 sell points, and there are productions in place in the sawmill and BGA. Now this map has 4 required mods. Those required mods include the British farmhouse, the English barn pack, the English style vehicle barn set, and not the Lizard Santina 88 pickup, but instead it's the Lizard Santina 88. Now on the website it lists the pickup as a required mod, but if you go to fire this game up with that activated, you'll be prompted, no, we need the Lizard Santina 88. So be sure to actually download this one. You do not need the pickup. It's very important if you are going to be playing this map on a server that you understand that and upload the right mods, because if you do try to start the server without the required mods, the server is simply going to say, I don't have all the mods I need. Go get them. And it won't really list out which ones it's expecting to see. Now, in addition to that, we are going to use the mods we typically use when we take a look at maps that are additional field info, additional game settings, field lease, field calculator, and precision farming. As I mentioned in the description, if you happen to load this map up in a farm manager mode or start from scratch, you will find that the main farm is completely void of all buildings. So it is also completely void of starting machinery in those play modes. In addition, you also do not own any land. But we are here in new farmer mode, and that is how we are going to be exploring the map today. When you load in for the very first time, you load here at the vehicle shop with your Lizard Santina 88 or Santina 88 parked right here at the maintenance trigger. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PDA itself. Now this is a single farm map with one very large farm kind of toward the middle of the map. We start over here at our vehicle shop. This map does include all of the standard crops available to us in Farm Sim 22, in addition to field bean and rye. Take a look at our lands area. We start out with farmland ID 51, just a large piece of land. That is basically the starting farm. 37.94 acres in size, $921,000 to buy that parcel of land. In addition, we start out by owning farmland ID 22 and 21. Those are 2 of our fields. There is a BGA that can be purchased up here at Farmland ID 42 for $151,000. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the other buyable farmlands by taking a look at our farmland lease screen. This is going to show us all of the buyable farmlands, how large those farmlands are, if those farmlands include any field or fields, which fields are included, then ultimately how much is that farmland going to cost us. Taking a look here, it looks like our farmland and our field numbers are matching all the way up to 38. Then at that point, then we have our farmlands that are not associated with fields. Taking a look at our field calculator screen, this is going to show us the actual fields and then the field sizes. We then, of course, go and cross-reference those with the farmland lease screen to see how much it's going to cost us to buy any one of these given fields. Taking a look at our crop counter, we do have the standard base game crop counter available to us on this map, but in addition, we also have crop plantings and harvest schedules for field bean and rye, the 2 additional crops on this map. Taking a look at our prices screen, you will see that we do indeed have the ability to sell all of our base game crops that are available to us in Farm Sim 22. In addition, we also have the ability to sell our eggs, wool, and milk, as well as our silage, hay, straw, and grass. Taking a look down through the base game production items, we also do indeed have the ability to sell all of the base game production items that are available to us in Farm Sim 22. As we move down through this list, you will see that we do not have the ability to buy bulk lime, but we do have the ability to get rid of our stones with a pre-placed stone crusher. We do have 1 sell point for our field bean, and then a couple sell points for our rye as added crops. And if you are looking to play with the Platinum expansion and the Platinum expansion production items, you will need to put down your own sell point because this map is not going to work with respect to selling those additional production items. Although, if you are playing with pumps and hoses, you will have an ability to sell separated manure. Taking a look at our starting fleet, it is all owned. None of it is leased. We do have some with a little bit of maintenance needed, but overall it has fairly low operating hours on it. We do start out with a pigsty, sheep barn, cow barn, chicken pasture, and horse area at the starting farm, although we do not have any animals at the start. We do have contracts available. We do not have any production chains at the start, and as I mentioned, this map does include 20 collectibles. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting fleet. Start out with a pair of John Deere 6250R tractors, as well as the Fendt Vario 724. We have then the Case Axle Flow 7150 harvester that is paired up with the 25-foot TerraFlex grain header. We have the Nardi N40BX header trailer to go with that. We've got our JCB 54170 AgriPlo telehandler. We've got our Lizard Santina 88 truck. We've got the half pipe HP 20 trailer. Our all-rounder flatline 600 cultivator. Our Rapid A 800S Vanderstand seeder. We have our Power Roller 1230 HD roller. Our Nardi Mega 1200L fertilizer and herbicide sprayer. We've got a small front mower. Then we have the VB3190 round baler. And then for our telehandler, we have a bucket, a pallet fork, and a bale fork. Let's go ahead and take a look at build mode. And we do have some required mods. So under sheds, we do see several of those sheds that are a part of those required mods. There is a modded silo that is a part of this map. Most likely it has been configured not only to hold far more crop than normal, but also hold rye and the field bean. We've got a modified manure heap. We do have the ability to put down a custom farmhouse. We do have a modded BGA, although I think it's just pretty much the standard BGA, just as listed here as a mod. Everything else here under production is base game items. We do have modded animal areas, and they have all been set up with a lot of animals. We've got the large cow barn at 560. We've got a large horse barn at 14. We've got the pigsty that's set up at 540. Our sheep barn is going to hold 650 sheep. And our little chicken pasture is going to hold 720. We've got fairly standard decorative items across the board. And when we get to our landscaping, we do have some new landscaping textures that we don't see in our base game maps. And we also have a few custom paintable ground textures. We've got a grass small. We've got grass middle, grass big. We have room X. We have, that. And then we have a para and mixed foliage. Let's just go ahead and quickly tab over to the main starting farm, and we'll take a look at what is in store for us here. As I said in the intro, we can indeed sell each and every building that is available here at the starting farm. So if you wanted it to be a new farm mode, if you wanted to delete all or some of these buildings and put down your own, you would have that flexibility. And of course, in Farm Manager or Start from Scratch, you're starting with a farm area that is completely void of all buildings, as well as machinery. So we've got this is the tale of several yards. Here we have our our machine yard and our silo. With several machine sheds where we have our machinery stored. We have our modded silo that's going to hold a large capacity of items. Nice bale shed there. Another bale shed off in the distance. And then we have our chicken coop. Again, as I said, 720 chickens. We have our eggs, and then we have our food trough. We have our farmhouse with our wardrobe and sleep triggers. And then I would say off through the woods. Just kind of run through here real quick. This is where we're going to start seeing our animal areas. So here we have our horse barn. It's going to be set up for 14 horses. And then this is going to take us out to the main road. Continue up the lane here past the horse area. We have our cow area. 560 cattle. So we have our milk point. We have our food trough. And a straw area there. We have our slurry point around the side here. Then our manure heap. Then if we further progress down the lane, we're going to come to our sheep area. So we have our food, we have our drop off, 650 sheep. We're going to have our wool. And then we have our pigs. So we have our food point. We have a drop-off point with 540 pigs. And then on the flip side, we have our slurry point. And that is the entirety of the main farm. Let's go ahead and just check our animals here and just make sure that we have fairly standard looking food requirements. So far, so good. Looking good to me. Let's go ahead and back up here and take a look at our precision farming soil map. We are making use of the US-based soil map here on Crocken Farm. And as you can see, our starting field of 21 is going to be a mix of sandy loam, silty clay, and loamy sand. Then 22 is going to be loam, sandy loam, and loamy sand. We got a big swath of silty clay to the north of our starting farm. And then down to the south is a mix of all of the various soil types. Let's get a little bit of altitude and we can kind of get a sense of how expansive this starting farm is. Off of the distance there, you can see our storage yard, our farmhouse. Then we have our horse barn. We have our pigs. Oh, sorry, our cows. We have our sheep. And then our pig area below. One thing I did notice is the fields down here to the southwest are fairly square and rectangular. Then as we move kind of further to the north, the fields start getting larger and start getting a bit more irregularly shaped. As far as productions built in, this map has a sawmill and a BGA, and that is it. But we are still going to be giving the map a full point with respect to having production built in or areas set aside for such. You will see when we get up by field 1, there is kind of an area over there built where you can put down additional sell points or a small production area. So we have our animal dealer here and our animal dealer sell point. And then in behind that, we have a grain sell point and Crocken grain. Let's go ahead and move up the western edge of the map. We're also going to be giving the map a full point with respect to having the ability to sell all of our base game crops, production items, and animal outputs. The only thing we are missing the ability to sell is going to be our platinum expansion items. And while we do not take off points for not having that ability, we simply denote if it does or does not have the ability to sell the platinum expansion items with respect to the FS22 logo that is on the thumbnail. We're also going to be giving the map a full point with respect to having the ability to customize the starting farm, because we can get rid of everything in its entirety. Here we have the grocery mart, and that is a sell point as well. Then nestled back in the woods here, we have our sawmill production. We have that down below. Then, as I mentioned, right over here by field 1, there is a small area is kind of set up where you could put down a small, maybe some buildings or a small production yard. Now, with respect to buildings where appropriate are using the new texturing technique, are going to give the map just 3/4 of a point here because we are going to be taking a little bit of points off. These houses are basically flat textures. They don't look bad from the road, but if you do get up close to them, they do kind of start showing their age a bit. Overall, the map has a combination of flat fields and gentle rolling hills. So you shouldn't have too much of a hassle with respect to using machinery and vehicles that maybe are a little bit underpowered for that. We've got then Crocken oil seed and grain sell point, kind of right across the street from our starting farm. Coming up on the vehicle shop now, we're going to come back to that. We do have a fuel point across the street from the vehicle shop. We have a restaurant sell point here on the corner. Then our functional BGA and 2 BGA sell points are going to be located up here in the extreme northeast corner of the map. Now, one thing I did try to do is I did try to sell the BGA after I purchased not only the land, but the BGA itself, which came with the land. I confirmed that I owned the BGA by having it show up in my production chains menu. And when I tried to sell the BGA, I got $590,000. But the buildings stayed. I think the triggers went away, but the buildings stayed. So on this map, I do not think you're going to have the ability to sell the BGA and therefore put your own down here. And around the behind that, there are 2 BGA named sell points, BGA 1 and BGA 2. That is how they are going to show up in your prices screen. Now, something that I did notice when I was looking on this map earlier is that there is a decent gap between each field. So you shouldn't have too much hassle with respect to hired help and them confusing one field with another. And as the description said, this map should be fairly friendly with respect to larger machinery as a result. We don't have fences. We don't have hedges kind of buttoning up against each field. Where we do have hedges, I have already checked, and I have not found hedge collisions. So that is a good thing. Down here at the vehicle shop, we've already talked about where the activation trigger is for our dealer. Then we're going to come over here and go ahead and fire Mahindra at this dealer trigger. We see we have a very large area here for our vehicles to spawn in at. Also very conducive to large machinery. We have a big gap in the fence posts in order to get in and out of the vehicle shop. Then if we look and see, we've got a fairly wide road here where we do have fence posts with no collisions. Notice that. I'm just walking straight through. So while we have fence posts, they are not collisionable. So again, rather friendly for large machinery. We already talked about it, but right across the street we have our fuel point. Very wide roads, easy to drive around, fairly light traffic. We do see AI traffic, but it is fairly light. I have to say, for this being the map author's self-proclaimed first map, I think he has done a fabulous job with setting things up. When I first got on the map and I started looking around, I thought to myself, this is a pretty basic map. And when I say a pretty basic map, I don't mean it in a bad way, in any way at all. I don't mean it to be derogatory or kind of a put down. Oh, this is just a basic map. No, that should not be taken that way. A basic map is a good thing because it means it is going to be fairly straightforward for the casual player to pick up and understand and figure out where things are supposed to be put. Where things go. What are you supposed to do with things? We don't have complex sell points. We don't have things like that. So here we have our free water source. We don't have complex production chains and things like that. I want to get in. I want to farm. I want everything pre-set up. This is what we got on Crocken Farm. If maybe you're a more advanced player, you're looking for something a bit more complex, well, the playlist, we definitely have maps that are far more complex, far more intricate, that are going to appeal to that level of player. But for someone who's maybe diving in, maybe one of their very first forays into mod maps, I think this is going to play very well on all platforms and all devices as well because of its fairly basic simplicity. We don't have a ton of things going on here. It's not a ton of buildings in a really tight area. So here we are at Crocken Farm Shop. Another sell point. Very easily identified. I'm going to always be driving on the wrong side of the road here. Let's make our way down the southern edge of the map. And while we're driving, I'll try to look over there, but these trees are kind of hindering that. See the gentle rolling nature of the fields down here. This is a standard size map, but it's going to maybe feel agricultural wise like it's a larger map because a vast majority of the map has been set up with fields. We're not spending a whole lot of time or using a whole lot of land for town areas, mountainous areas, or forests for that matter of fact. We've got just a few areas that are really set up for forestry. Here we have our Crocken livestock sales. So we have our grain dump, our bale sell point there. Then we have our animal trigger. And then around back, we're going to have a grain sell point. Crocken Road. I just get a kick. If you didn't know the name of the map, just go look at something on the map. It's crockin' easy to figure out. We have Crocken Grain. We're going to come by our main starting farm. And I think, well, some of the way this map's going to feel large is by how the roads are laid out. Like, to get to the BGA, I think you got to come all the way over here to the northwest to pick up the road that's then going to take you all the way across the northern side of the map in order to get to the northeast. So we've got our main starting farm just on the other side of that tree line. And this is the road we're going to take in order to split off to our starting farm. We got Crocken oil seeding grain. Let's see if these guy wires have collisions. Nope. The poles don't even have collisions. I mean, this is going to be on a scale of how easy this map is to play. I'm going to have to, if I rated map on easiness to play, easiness to get around, I would probably have to say it's pretty high. I mean, I suspect these buildings have collisions, but that's going to be about it. Coming up here to our grocery mart. And we'll go ahead and move on up. Kind of wish that building off to the side there was a sell point of some sort. I'd love to know from those on the various platforms and system configurations, if you know your system's kind of a little bit lower end, how well does this map play for you? So we have our plank spawn point, we have our wood cell trigger, we have our wood dump point, we have our interactive trigger, and then we have our pickup point for our wood chips. I'm going to go ahead and say, well, as we move over to our final area in the drive around, which is going to be the BGA area, where we have the 2 sell points, I'm going to be giving the map a full point also with respect to having player and interactive areas being clearly marked. Because they are indeed very clearly marked. It's very obvious where the sell points and such are. This is going to be your placeable area. And you're going to be able to put down a decent sized production here. Pick some of the bigger stuff out here. Even from the Platinum expansion. BGA. I mean, really, you got enough room to put a second BGA in here also. All right, so that's a pretty good sized area. So that's going to leave this map with a score of 4.75 out of 5. We only took a quarter of a point off with respect to some of those country houses that are along a couple of these main roads, having the flat textures from FS19 and prior. There may be another building or two kind of scattered around that's also using those older textures. Overall, it does not really affect, in my opinion, the gameplay ability of the map, the immersion factor of the map. But it is just something I want to point out because we have been pointing it out on over 200 other maps that we have reviewed since the release of Farm Sim 22 way back in November of 2021. I think we're very close to be approaching maybe as many as 220 maps reviewed at this point. So here we have BGA cell point 1, BGA cell point number 2. We have our Stone Crusher, then we have our BGA here itself, and again, this area is going to come up. It's going to come to life once we actually buy the land, which we can buy for $151,000. So guys, let me know your all's thoughts down in the comments below. What do you all think of Crocken Farm? Are you going to have yourself a Crocken good time checking this map out? They can make a pretty good map maybe for multiplayer if you are kind of looking to run a community farm. But just remember, you will need the Lizard Santina 88, not the Lizard Santina 88 pickup, as is currently listed in the website under the required mods. Very wide lanes here between the fields. As I said, AI should have no difficulty whatsoever in working these fields and not jumping off to the next one. And until next time, happy farming.